Good morning. Thank you. I'm aware that I'm the only thing standing between you and your lunch. So I truly hope that I'll make the next 35 minutes worthwhile. I'm here to talk about something that I'm very, very passionate about, something that we call ideas without limits. And by the way, I'm an advertising mom, an advertising daughter, and an advertising wife. And I've never thought about it that way because I feel that I'm just trying to be, as my father always told me, the best person you can be. And I think the time where technology, creativity, data, and everything come together bring us this fantastic opportunity for us to be who we really are and be confident in delivering any ideas in your life that's truly without limits. So I truly feel for the session from FCB, from Carter, because there are other things that resonate with me. One of the key things I always feel, and I think we're living it, is that this is a time for the renaissance of marketing and communication. Because of technology convergence and everything coming together, that has made everything possible. I think Ideas Without Limit talk about a few themes in the industry. The first one, obviously, is creativity is the key to make anything successful. But it's also without limits in the way you can exercise your imagination, but also in the way you can deliver it. The key thing for the age now, in the digital age, is how you deliver your ideas without limits, because you can think of crazy things which will never happen in your world. But now, there are so many tools that you can use to empower yourself and liberate creativity. I feel that the backbone of Ideas Without Limits and any ideas in the digital age is really on the importance of innovation. And this is a word that everybody talks about. It's like a buzzword, a word that mentioned maybe 20 million times at CES and South by Southwest. So why are we talking about it again? The key point is we cannot just be talking about it, we have to live it. And innovation, actually in a lot of research, shows that PwC in 2013 has conducted this research. They have this testing group of companies with similar size, structure, and revenue size, and comparing innovation as a key driver and see how that impacts the actual financial results of the company. And with company that actually constantly passing the innovative threshold, the revenue and the growth is 60%, whereas company as a comparative group is only 21%, so it's 3 times more. And I think it could be even more when we embrace the world of technology much closer. We have a multi-year partnership with MIT's Media Lab, and this is one of the things that always strike me. In the MIT Media Lab research, they try to figure out what impacted the rate of change. So the rate of change of society in their research found out is a function of the age at which youth are introduced to the dominant technology of the time. So when they look at 20th century, the greatest invention in the US at that time was automotive. Because when you're age of 16, you can drive on the car, drive away from your hometown, and actually learn and live a different world. So at that time, the generation gap is 16 years. So 16 years, sort of a cycle, that actually that's how change happened, generation versus generation. By year 2000, with the great invention of internet and all the technology, the generation gap has shortened into 4 years, because 4 years old is the age that the young people actually get a touch and get connected with dominant technology of the time. I would say this year is 2016, and I think it's probably 1.5, because the invention of iPad has actually accelerated the age that young people get in touch with technology. And if you look at change, I just pick 7 things that I found out from the past maybe 10 to 12 months that actually indicates how things are changing. And you probably know all of them, but you probably never really look at them all together. So bear with me as I go through it. The first one is e-commerce. And I think majority of you are aware of this man, Jack Ma of Alibaba, who has actually created the empire, but the thing was a singles day, 24-hour flash sale. Last year in November 11, that 24 hours sold US dollar 14.3 billion, among which 69% are from mobile. And when a lot of people say, yes, China has 1.3 billion people, so any number in China needs to be big, the post-Singles Day research has shown that on that day, there are people from 200 countries shopping on the Alibaba site. The other thing is, on the goods they're selling on the Alibaba platform that day, there are 16,000 international brands selling on the Alibaba platform on that day. This actually leads us to some syndrome and phenomenon that AC Nielsen has described, and it's called the borderless buyers. So people buy across country. I'm sure if you're on e-commerce, you probably all do. You buy from the US, from the UK, from Japan, from anywhere that you want to get access to things that inspire you. India, among all of the countries in Asia Pacific, actually is one of the highest borderless buyer, as you know, the actual behavior of people buying across borders. This plays huge impact to the marketing structure because normally the client look at their business from a geography perspective. So in any single country, this is the channel that you're doing, and this is how you actually engage with your consumer, ensuring that you provide them with the right goods, selling at the right place. But now, with borderless buyer, what it actually brings to the table is this borderless world. When you need to think of the different pricing point between India and Singapore, between India and China, between Brazil and China, and how that actually converge into different buying infrastructure, that changed entirely how you look at marketing, communications, advertising, and retail. And that's a key phenomenon actually are driving the next 5 years, we believe, at least, which mobile is playing a critical role. The third thing is Disneyland invested this $1 billion on this magical wristband. And whoever has gone to Disneyland since then says that it changed their life in Disneyland with a magical experience. Because the thing that you hated most in Disneyland is to wait on the line so that your 2-year-old, your 4-year-old under the sunshine need to wait for an hour and a half in order to get on that small elephant ride, and it will take for 30 seconds, and you have to get down. And then you have to, if they have to do it, you have to start over again. This wristband is your fast track ticket. It's your hotel room key. It actually helps you book restaurant in Disneyland, which is a pain if you need to take your kids there. But also, at the same time, it's creating that connected experience when people move around in the Magic Kingdom. Think of this girl. She's probably 4. She grew up with this magic wristband. She will never expect less from any brand that they like if they do not really give them this on-demand satisfaction when they grow up. They have to have this connected experience. And that's the thing that's going to drive the future of how experience can create brand impact to people's life. Programmatic has been something that's been talked about, but I guess the questions that we talk to our client the most are, yes, you place media programmatically, but what are the content that you're placing with it? Because if it's the same content, it's just a different technology help you to do targeting. It doesn't really give you the edge. It doesn't give you the context. It doesn't help you with a journey. And there are many, many experiments now is trying to break through this part, it will take different thinking on the creative development process for sure. This example is in Brazil for the Unilever deodorant brand, that they identified 4 segments. Each segment actually produced 25,000 videos. Depending on the tag of the audience, you'll probably see different things, different part of the parts first, different story, and it will be targeted at you. So in all, they produce 100,000 videos for this programmatic buy. The results, obviously we don't know about the sales result, but the result of viewing and also the engagement that they research from this initiative shows a much higher satisfaction and viewership level when consumers engage with programmatic videos. So programmatic video is something that we have to think about because there's no way your creative team can produce 100,000 videos for one single idea. There need to be ways that technology come and help you. There need to be ways data actually create the context for how combination can happen. But it takes a creative mind to think of creativity in an entirely different way, because that's how we can really satisfy this on-demand generation with relevance. YouTube last October said they're going to make 100% their videos shoppable. This is not a surprise, and it's happening. Pinterest launched their predictive shopping. So from actually 90% of people went on Pinterest says that they're there because they want to buy something. They want to research things that they buy. Depending on the photo that you see, they will actually tell you what are the closest match of e-commerce items. And then you can see it beneath it. So they help you to put it into a shopping cart or actually enable you for more on-demand purchase. And this one I really like is MasterCard from June this year going to launch Pay by Selfie. So use the facial recognition technology. That's when you cannot use your fingerprint to verify who you are. Your face is how people recognize you. So it's going to be one of the security verification when people are doing online shopping. They want to make sure it's really you that are using this card. But I think there are better implications to this, because if you think of this world, we're talking about the virtual and the physical world and how that come back together. You think of this world, when we were young, when we go to a neighborhood store, people recognize you by your face. When they see you, they know your name, they know your parents' name, they know you have a pet, they know what you normally buy. And that facial recognition technology will not only just enable you for verification of purchase, which is purely functional, it actually gives you the opportunity to create and recreate a virtual shopping experience that's very close to when you're shopping in a real store. I think that's what Ideas Without Limits come from, because all the 7 things you may have heard of, but when you put that together, I think it gives us something of the future of brand building. Because the connecting of the real and virtual world, when we talk about the economy, really talking about 130 trillion versus the 20 trillion, the overlap of both is actually coming into greater and greater impact with each other, because we as a consumer, we buy in both worlds. And the future of brands, what I believe, is something called brand commerce. So right now you have agencies talking about brand story. Now you have agencies or a service provider helping to bring the transaction experience into value to ensure that consumer can get access to it. But the future, where we're going to and we're living right now, is a future that we call brand commerce. It is how you use technology to bring the brand inspiration, which we're very good at as an advertising agency industry. And how can we bring that inspiration closer with point of transaction, ensuring that the connected experience delivered across the journey it's seamless, it's delightful, it's transaction-enabled. Because right now, with that little girl with the wristband, the generation across all ages are on-demand generation. When they see something, they want it. When they want it, you fail to deliver to them, they go to the next one. And that's a risk that marketer cannot risk not to embrace in terms of this future, because that instant recency and how that connected experience bring about a future that's really gonna have us is important. So bringing that together, one key thing is not to look at it as silos, not look at it as social commerce, it's e-commerce, it's retail commerce, it's the same-day delivery. To bring all these together, the key thing is to have a holistic thinking that create the right connected experience to help brand thrive with the powerful narrative, but living in the right virtual and physical space and environment. So I want to talk about two types of idea that I think will come up more and more. And those are the ideas, if any marketers do it in the right way, will actually create substantial strategic value for their revenue and profitability. The first set is what we call the ideas that reimagine the last mile where people shop things. So I think the interesting thing is the brief from the client when they came in is to say, can you do two things for us with an advertising campaign? One is to help us to increase the people who sign up for test drive. Secondly is we cannot open more dealership anymore. So can you make sure you run a promotion so people come and look at the car and book the test drive during Monday to Friday and not all coming weekends because we can't handle them all. That's not how consumers live their life. So what we came back with, the idea was not an advertising campaign. It's a new product and a new business model. We create this product, the handset, create a studio that actually train it's actors and actresses selling the car. We use data to ensure that we have the FAQ and the way it's selling, depending on the audience, so that we write script to train actors and actresses to do this, because you need to see beautiful people there. And you also need to ensure that with the handset, it's almost like dancing. A lot of normal people, when they wear the headset, actually it will be jumping when you're talking. You don't know what you're doing. You have to, almost like a dancer, you know how you dance and how you actually ensure the camera enable the customer look at the right thing. And this is what we call idea without limit. It's creatively solving a client's business problem, regardless of the solution. And that's a wonderful world that we're living in, because it liberates the potential of creativity. And it doesn't have to be always, when you reimagine the last mile, something this big as a business model. It can be something pretty small. But the idea of thinking of reimagining the last mile is not to think of brand and commerce as two separate silos. Think of their exponential effect, the power that it can create for the brand, and that is the future. Small things will work as well, like this one from China. Because of time, I won't show the next one. It's actually a KFC one that actually having the singing tray mate and making KFC the stores that are selling new music as a distribution channel instead of just a fast food chain store. But that come into the group, I think will make a huge difference for clients, is if you can think of ideas enabled through technology that deliver tangible results at the last mile, and integrating mobile stores and web, and how people's journey actually come into fruition at the point of sale, it will actually create exponential effect for your client's business.
Remember when and why.
The other group of ideas is an idea that we call ideas that invent and reinvent. So innovation does not come out of the blue. It always comes from something that exists. And to your point, it is making things a little better all the time. With that mindset, it changes everything you do. And I want to show you a few examples in this area that actually simple technology create and generate exponential business results. The first one is what we did for Sky TV with all the channels, and this is a typical idea of how data and browsing behavior can create a business model for your TV and video viewing behavior. The other one is recently there's a lot of talk about neural technology and how that actually help people perceive things. Neural technology is something that can help you to resonate and really create connection with objects. This is one that we just launched in Australia for Uniqlo. It's something called UMood. It's a neural tool that helps you to select t-shirts in store. So technology is not there just for the sake of technology. It's there to help make people's life a lot better. Another example that we did is for General Motors. And that's a virtual reality tool in car shows that help you when you put on that the Oculus, you'll be able to experience the actual vibration, feelings, the wings, and the scenery as if you're driving in New Zealand across the mountains. And virtual reality and technology has become such a big trend that actually I think will redefine TV viewing experience in the future. It's coming big, but the content production is a big challenge in terms of how can you create valuable virtual reality contents and make that work. I'll skip this video, but I think the key point I want to come back with is really the new role of agencies today. If we take the assumption that we're creatively solving a client's challenges, I think one key difference that you see today is really you don't wait for a brief anymore, because the client cannot tell you what actually they're wanting you to produce. They want you to solve a challenge, but there are millions of ways to do it. The other thing that I think is important, while we're a digital agency, we're here, we grow out from the digital economy. One key thing that's important is anyone can think of an idea, but there are only very few that know how to execute it. In the digital age, the distinction between idea and delivery has to come together, because a lot of learning that you will have is coming from the way you execute those ideas. You understand the nuances of how that impact customer experience. And that's a key. That's a key to win. Design no longer means visual design. Design actually have strategic value attached to the entire product development processes. And that's a new role of agency. It's a creator of narrative spaces. It's creating that good brand narrative, but put them into virtual and physical spaces that you can actually empower those ideas to live and grow. It can be an experience, it can be a solution, it could be a platform, it can still be advertising. But the distinction around those is with a very, very blurry line. And growing together with clients will mean that we are willing to invest also in different risk-taking business models rather than just charging client for fees. Because that will come when the tangible results can be something you are part of. And I believe that's actually the future that we're moving into, and we should benefit both the client and the agency. So when we talk about Idea Without Limits, it's almost like the most important thing when you think of Ideas Without Limits is to say, in the past, we want to do an idea that's really engaging, compelling, and we want people to feel they like the brand. Today, more and more, when we come into the product and service design area, it's almost like once we propose and execute an idea, after that, you want to make an ad for it, because the idea is not an ad. And I think that's the world that we're living into, and that's why Idea Without Limits is so important and so exciting. I want to end my presentation with the last case that's what we did for Fiat. And the briefing that came from clients is the same, to say, how can we prevent people from drinking and driving? And our solution was not an ad.
Não dá pra sair sem beber.
Uma cervejinha ou duas, aí eu pego o carro.
Teve um primo de uma amiga minha.
Bebeu muito.
Pela bebida, ele acabou tirando a vida de uma pessoa.
No começo você fala assim, não vou beber mais. Aí passa um tempinho, você, ai meu, uma só.
O uso de drogas na humanidade é cultural e a gente entende que é necessário uma política para o álcool. Então, só uma campanha, infelizmente, não basta.
Resolvemos fazer mais do que uma campanha. Criamos um acessório inovador com o objetivo de provocar uma mudança efetiva no hábito dos motoristas. Você só vai conseguir ligar o carro se comprovar que não ingeriu bebida alcoólica. Basta soprar a safe key no local indicado, que em menos de 1 segundo ela analisa o seu teor alcoólico. Se o motorista bebeu, ela não abre.
Nesse caso, a chave se conecta ao celular por Bluetooth Low Energy e abre automaticamente um aplicativo de táxi. E dispara um SMS para um contato pré-cadastrado.
Se ele não consumiu álcool, pronto. É só usar a chave para dar partida no carro e dirigir normalmente.
Como o sopro deixa sempre um resíduo na chave, a solução foi fazer um sensor de álcool que se esterilizasse automaticamente para não comprometer a próxima vez que alguém soprar. E para garantir a duração da bateria por mais de 1 ano, o próprio sopro do usuário é o que liga a Fiat Safe Key.
A gente sabe que só esse produto não vai resolver todo o problema. Mas fazer você pensar 2 vezes no momento da verdade tem o potencial para salvar muitas vidas.
Ah, eu acho que sim.
Eu não sopraria a chave do meu amigo.
Eu acho que eu sopraria. Eu sopraria.
Acho que
But I'll start with, the chain that we've been talking about in the first 2 presentations. And I think this question, which is from Sarita Shetty of Aditya Birla, as a woman entrepreneur and a CEO, what has been your biggest challenge?
I think that I've never thought of it as a woman CEO, because the gender for me never come into the thing when I'm thinking of my life. But if you want to specifically take the female aspect to it, I think obviously, I have a husband, I have 2 kids, I have a dog and a cat. So that's my family that I want to make sure that they're happy while I'm happy doing my job. So one of the challenges that I have is I sometimes cannot read bedtime stories for my kids before they went to bed. And that's the reason why I do what I think is best, is I'm a digital person, right? Obviously, before digital person, I'm an advertising person because I worked for Ogilvy for such a long time. But what I decided is to run a blog with my kids. And every time when I'm traveling, I post a real-time story there so that my son can read it to my daughter before they go to bed. And that continued for several years until they're fed up with me. But I think that's a challenge. I mean, that feeling of not being able to read them bedtime stories, for me, is much more than a client wanting me to do something with time pressure. I think for me, life as a whole is much more important.
That's really nice. Here's a question from Paritosh of JWT Mumbai. Snapchat is an unexplored network in India. Can you suggest how brands give examples of how brands can explore this high potential app and some examples?
I think you're right in saying that there are probably not consistently good examples for Snapchats, and probably for a lot of new emerging things that come and go. So my feeling around that is that behavior of real-time satisfaction, and the fact that young people, it's not just millennials, but I think young people in general do not look back into the history. They live in that moment. That's the actual key selling point for anything like Snapchat. And that will be something that the brand could own for those moments. So there's not very good example I see that's sustainable or strategic in applying those. But that's one of the things in the digital world is you have to embrace those solutions as they come up, experiment it, and really tell you how the data will work back to inform your future strategy. So instead of waiting for a good example to come up, I would expect to see JWT coming out with great examples with Snapchat, and we can talk about in the next Cannes Lions, maybe, in seminars in the future.
Yeah, that's right. And as Carter said, we are never finished, right? So unfortunately, there'll be just one last question, and this is from Simon Jacob from Campfire Worldwide Partners. Can you share examples of last mile marketing in countries like China and India, where large population actually makes technology expensive?
Makes
technology expensive. You know, so reaching people at the last mile through technology can actually be very expensive for brands because, you know, we have a huge population in so many different outlets, and,
right.
and it's always a challenge.
Right. I obviously cannot speak to India because I think India, in my point of view, I feel that it's much more complex than China. You may disagree, but that's how I feel. I think from China perspective, if a brand always wants to own the last mile channel with innovative technology, it can be really expensive. And that's the reason why when you think about it, you need to think of reimagine last mile across both own and earn channels. Because there are channels and platforms you can ride on, like WeChat, like Alibaba, where the right brand experience actually help you to connect with the consumer in a much more compelling way. So it doesn't really have to be always expensive. And also it depends on how much you actually drive up the average spend for the customer. Because the cost of technology marketing is always as a percentage of how the customers spend. When you actually can drive up the average spend, the cost become not an issue. You have to drive for that scale instead of giving people free goodies, because that's not what brand commerce is about.
Great. Thank you so much.